Ladies and gentlemen, college football week number 5 is officially over. So let's get into a recapping and reacting to college football week number 5, and boy was it a good one. So first we must start with the Friday night game between Oregon State and Utah. The big question in this game was if Utah would get their starting quarterback Cam Rising to return after he tore his ACL last season in the Rose Bowl against Penn State. And he was a game-time decision, and he would not suit up for the Utah Utes, and this would cost them, as their quarterback, Nate Johnson, their backup, would only throw 8 for 23 for 101 yards and 1 touchdown and would get benched in this game. And Oregon State took advantage of Utah's bad offense, as DJ Ugalangale would throw for 14 for 25 for 204 yards and 1 touchdown. And their star running back, Damian Martinez, would carry the ball 16 times for 65 yards and 1 touchdown. And they would end up scoring 21 points, and this was enough to defeat the Utah Utes 21-7. And then we reached 12 o'clock, and first let's start with the huge Pac-12 conference game between the USC Trojans traveling to take on the Colorado Buffaloes. And this game was just absolutely no defense. Both quarterbacks played absolutely amazing, as Caleb Williams threw 30 for 40 for 403 yards, 6 touchdowns, while Shedeur Sanders threw 30 for 45 for 371 yards and 4 touchdowns. And both offenses were absolutely firing. However, USC got out to a huge lead and never looked back. Their offense would score 48 points compared to Colorado's 41, and Colorado's defense honestly just looks awful. And USC really took advantage of this, with Caleb Williams throwing for 6 touchdowns, and he would lead USC to a huge 48-41 victory in Boulder, Colorado. Next up, we had a Big Ten game that was closer than many expected, as the Penn State Nittany Lions traveled to take on the Northwestern Wildcats. And both teams honestly looked shaky at times in this game, as the game was tied at 10-10 heading into halftime. And I think the best way to sum up Penn State's first half is that their star running back, Nick Singleton, fumbled the opening kickoff, and Northwestern was already up 3-0 just 1 minute into the game. However, Penn State's defense was really the difference maker in this game, as they completely shut down Northwestern's offense. Penn State's defense looked absolutely amazing, and they looked like one of the best defenses in the Big Ten and possibly one of the best defenses in college football this season. Their front seven played absolutely amazing against Northwestern, as they had 7 sacks and well over 20 quarterback pressures. And this was the difference, as Penn State would win this game 41-13. Next up, we had the Florida Gators traveling to take on the Kentucky Wildcats. And many expected this game to be closer. However, Kentucky absolutely balled out. Their star running back, Ray Davis, came out of absolutely nowhere this game, as he'd only had 100 rushing yards heading into this week. However, he would carry the ball 26 times for 280 yards and 3 touchdowns and absolutely carry Kentucky, as their quarterback only threw for 69 yards in the game. And the Kentucky Wildcats defense held Graham Mertz in check, as he would only throw for 244 yards in this game. And Kentucky ultimately would pick up the huge SEC victory to move them to 5-0, as they would end up winning this game 33-14. Next, let's head to the 3:30 window in college football. And guys, what are you doing? Why are you not subscribed right now? I'm providing the best college football breakdown videos, so please like and subscribe. These videos take a lot of effort, so just please help out. But let's get back into breaking down college football week number 5. The first game took place as the Georgia Bulldogs traveled to Jordan-Hare Stadium to take on the Auburn Tigers. And this was honestly an extremely close game the entire time, and honestly a very interesting game, as it was 10-10 heading into halftime and 17-17 heading into the fourth quarter. This was Carson Beck's very first road start as Georgia's quarterback, and he went 23 of 33 for 313 yards and 1 touchdown. And Auburn was actually using 2 quarterbacks, Peyton Thorne, who threw 10 for 19 for 82 yards, and Robbie Ashford, who only completed 1 pass for 6 yards. However, he was a key in the rushing attack, as he had 4 carries for 33 yards. And honestly, going into the fourth quarter, I honestly thought Auburn had a legit shot at winning this. However, Georgia's offense would take over in the fourth quarter. And I don't even mean Georgia's offense, I mean Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers played absolutely amazing in the fourth quarter, and he scored the game-winning touchdown for the Georgia Bulldogs. In this game, he had 8 receptions for 157 yards and 1 touchdown, and was ultimately the difference maker, as Georgia would win 27-20. Next up, we had the Michigan Wolverines traveling to take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and like many of us expected, this game was not close at all. Michigan got out to an early 28-0 lead, and they rode this the whole way. J.J. McCarthy only had to play a limited amount of time. However, he still completed 12 of 16 for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Michigan absolutely blew out Nebraska, as they would end up winning this game 45-7. The next game was a huge Big 12 matchup between the Texas Longhorns and the Kansas Jayhawks. In this game, Texas would get out to an early 10-0 lead. However, Kansas would fight back in the second quarter to make this game 7-13 heading into halftime. And then things would break loose in the second half for the Texas Longhorns, as Quentin Ewers would throw 25 of 35 for 325 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception, and he would lead Texas' offense to scoring 40 points in the second half. And not to mention, Texas star running back Jonathan Brooks had 21 carries for 218 yards and 2 touchdowns, and this would ultimately lead Texas to a huge victory over Kansas in a 40-14 score. Next up, we had an absolutely huge SEC matchup between the LSU Tigers and the Ole Miss Rebels. And this game was a battle of the offenses, and there was absolutely no defense played in this game. Both quarterbacks played absolutely amazing as Jaden Daniels completed 27 of 36 for 414 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. And Ole Miss's quarterback Jackson Dart completed 26 of 39 for 389 yards and 4 touchdowns, again with 0 interceptions. However, the difference in this game was Quinton Jenkins, the running back for the Ole Miss Rebels, as he had 177 yards and a touchdown. And this would ultimately be enough as the Ole Miss Rebels would get a huge 55-49 victory over LSU. And next up, I just want to quickly talk about the UCF game as they were beating the Baylor Bears 35-7. However, they would actually choke this, and Baylor would get a huge comeback victory as they would score 29 unanswered points and win this game 36-35. Next up, we had what expected to be a huge Big 12 matchup between Iowa State and Oklahoma. However, this game was not close at all, as Oklahoma's offense would score 40 points in the first half, and they would end up scoring 50 points in the game, and it was due to their star quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, who threw 26 for 39 with 366 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he would lead Oklahoma to a 50-20 victory over Iowa State. The next game we are going to be breaking down took place between the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Duke Blue Devils. And boy, was this a good game, even though it got out to a very slow start in the first half, as Notre Dame would go up at halftime 10-0. And then Duke would score a touchdown in the third quarter to make this game 10-7. And then late in the fourth quarter, Duke would actually take a 14-13 lead, and then they would punt the ball to Notre Dame on their 5-yard line. And then Sam Hartman would lead a 95-yard game-winning touchdown drive for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, as Audric Estime would punch in a 30-yard game-winning rushing touchdown. In this game, both quarterbacks played decent, as Sam Hartman threw 15 for 30 for 222 yards and 0 touchdowns, while Riley Leonard threw 11 for 26 with 129 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. However, Riley Leonard was honestly a difference maker on the ground, as he had 17 carries for 92 yards. However, ultimately, this would not be enough, as the Duke Blue Devils would lose to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish 21-14. And the very final game we're going to be discussing in college football week number 5 took place between South Carolina and Tennessee. And many expected this to be a all-out SEC classic, and it did start out that way, as Tennessee was leading 14-10 in the first quarter. However, they would take a 24-10 halftime lead, and they would never look back. Their quarterback, Joe Milton, would throw 21 for 32 with 239 yards, 1 touchdown, and he would actually throw 2 interceptions. And Spencer Rattler, quarterback of the South Carolina Gamecocks, would go 24 of 35 with 169 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And honestly, South Carolina's offense could just not get it done today against the Tennessee Volunteers defense, and this would ultimately result in a 41-20 Tennessee victory. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to stay tuned for week 6.